Hey, my name is Michael Griswold, and this video is called 3 Ways to Know Instantly if Someone is Lying to You, so that you never have to feel betrayed, cheated, or like someone is getting one over on you ever again. Tell me this, has this ever happened to you? You're talking to somebody who's important to you, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, spouse, whoever, and they're telling you something that just doesn't sound quite right. You ask some questions, they get kind of defensive and tell you over and over that they are telling the truth. You go away with this unsettled feeling. You're unresolved, but you're not really sure what to do or how to handle it. I mean, you want to believe them, but, well, here's the bad news. People lie. All the time. People lie to our face, people lie behind our backs, and this is just a fact of life. In fact, you and I, we both lie. And it's just the way that we've learned to get on in society. The thing is we need a way to distinguish between when people are telling the truth and when they're not telling the truth. So why is it that people lie? Well, I happen to think that most times people lie because they don't want to hurt our feelings, or they're embarrassed by the truth, or they don't have the courage to tell the truth. The point is that rarely do people lie just to be malicious. Rarely do people lie because they're bad people or because they deserve to rot in a hot, hot hell or anything like that. Though that's the way we might feel when someone lies to us, it's important to be able to see below the surface. And you're going to find out why in just a minute. But being able to see below the surface reason to what's really going on helps us to have a lot more control and to use that motivation in these situations to not only get the truth, but to get what we want out of the conversation. So, tell me this. What if you could tell instantly when someone is lying to you? For example, was he really at that party? Or was he out with someone else? Is he really just a friend? Or is she hiding something else about her feelings from you? Maybe in a job environment, are you really in line to get that promotion? Or is your boss kind of jerking your chain? What if you could exude the confidence to command their respect, and you knew how to handle the lies people tell and how to make it so they feel comfortable enough around you not to have to tell a lie? Would that make you feel in control? You see, when you're able to see through what people are telling you to what they're really saying, it gives you a great amount of control and confidence. Imagine that. Imagine that you and I are sat down having a conversation, and I'm being a little nervous, but I'm trying to cover it up. But you can tell, because of what you learned in this video, you can tell that I'm not really being as economical with the truth as I should be. Well, you knowing what's going on and being able to then sympathize with why I would be acting that way puts you in the position of power in our conversation, so that instead of reacting and getting offended by the way that I'll be talking to you, you really get to direct the conversation. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. So in this video, look, we have to have a way of finding the truth. There's no way to make sense of our lives and our world if everything that we hear is a lie. We can't ask someone, are you lying to me? Because nobody in their right mind is going to say, you know what, yes, I'm lying right to your face. Body language is a language all to itself. And I'm going to give you some statistics here in a minute about how important, and it's going to surprise you, how important body language is. Being fluent in this type of language gives you an unmatched confidence, an ability to get others to do what you want, even the apparent ability to read their mind. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. And then we're going to go over 3 foolproof ways to notice when someone may be trying to mislead you. So, what do I know? How do I know all this? Well, after noticing the power of communication and being fascinated by it, by the intricacies, I decided to study everything I could on it. I found it fascinating how so often what people really think is rarely what they say. You've seen this, no doubt, in all sorts of circumstances. Does this dress make me look fat? Do you think that that girl's pretty? There's a thousand examples, And so often, people are hiding what they really think under a very thin veneer of a lie. And I found that when you can discover that and then pull that veneer, that scab off, and get to the real heart of what's going on, not only do your relationships improve, but you feel so much more in control. You don't feel like you have to be worried about whether somebody's going to betray you. I realized that there has to be a way of listening to find out to what someone was saying if they were injected with truth serum and forced to be honest. There had to be a way to figure out what people were really saying in spite of what their words were saying. So here's a few scientific results of a study in human communication. 7% of our communication is the words that we speak, the words that you're hearing right now. 38% is the how we say what we say. So the tempo, the inflection, the pitch, those types of things. Notice the difference between talking like this and communicating. 38% is the how we say what we say, and 38% is the how we say what we say. One of them sounds a great deal more controlled, a great deal more confident, and a great deal more believable. The other sounds nervous and weak. And look at this. A striking 55% of our communication is body language. You've no doubt had this experience where the words that someone's saying and the way that their body, it's as if they're two dance partners dancing to a different song. What do we do in this situation? Well, how has this study helped? Using these techniques, I've helped other people to discover when a girlfriend or soon-to-be ex-girlfriend was not really out with a new friend. I've helped people find out when business partners were planning to cut them out of a deal by the way they were acting during their meeting, not by what they were saying. How one woman's fiancé really felt about her, despite his many, many claims of love and devotion. And there's many, many more examples. And here's what I've found. In every relational failure that wasn't catastrophically flawed from the beginning, communication is the cause of that failure. It's not sex, it's not infidelity, it's not money. It's always the way that we communicate about those things. Even in business relations, it's not the greed, it's not who gets a lion's share of the deal. It's the way that we communicate it. And so often, instead of talking about the real issues, one person says something that offends the other person, and because you don't feel the power to be able to divert the conversation how you want to, you just react. Now, if you could instead see through it and direct the conversation where you wanted to go, instead of this superficial bantering, you could get to the heart of the issue. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Look, body language is a foreign language to most people. Imagine this. You're at a coffee shop and you're talking to someone from Italy. You're talking and they're talking, but their English is not very good. But what if you were also fluent in Italian? Would that make them feel more comfortable? Would they probably feel closer to you? And would you be able to get more info from them than the person sitting next to you who could only speak English? Body language is the same way. Being able to pick up on what someone's saying is one type of language. But being able to listen to the how they say what they say and to what their body is saying when they're talking gives you an unmatched supremacy in communication. So we talked about the good news. Here's the good news. Look, most people don't like to lie. And if you give them a graceful way of getting out of it, you get to find out the truth and win them over. As we talked about before, so often people lie because they're embarrassed. And we can relate to that. We've all been in situations where to tell the truth would be a bit embarrassing. But if someone were able to see through that and then able to give us a gracious out, well then we get to save face and keep our dignity without having to lie. So I'll be teaching you what you're going to do once you've spotted a lie in a subsequent video, and actually how to win the lying party over to your side. For now, it's key to learn how to spot a lie so that you can begin noticing. So, how to tell a lie. There are three ways, key ways to tell that we're going to talk about when someone is being economical with the truth. And we're going to focus on the face because that's what we pay the most attention to. There are other ways, and we'll talk about those in this course that I'll be releasing called Subconscious Communication. But for now, because we spend so much time looking at people's faces, it's important to start there. So let's start with the eyes. Okay, so it's old cliche that the eyes are the window to the soul, and it is quite true. Now, the reason that this works is because all three of these things that we're going to talk about are subconscious behaviors. What do I mean by that? I mean that right now I'm speaking to you and I'm doing that consciously. My brain is communicating with my mouth. It's bringing out the words that I'm speaking. The things that we're going to talk about with your eyes, your nose, and your mouth, the things that people do when they're under duress, kind of like a lie detector, their limbic brain, that is the oldest part of our brain, happens automatically. It's the part that controls all of our automatic behaviors. And so when we are feeling distressed, when we're under duress, we do certain things to protect ourselves, and it's just scientific. So let's talk about the eyes first. When you're looking at people's eyes, there's a couple of ways to tell when they are not telling the truth. The left side of your brain is what controls reason, cognitive function, logic. The right side of your brain, you may already know, is responsible for creative thought, abstract thought. So when you're talking to somebody, you'll notice that just a second before they're about to speak, their eyes will flitter one way or to the other. Well, why is this beneficial? Well, because if you notice that in the course of communication, someone is looking to the left, to their left, this is important, to their left, then you know that they're accessing their memory, their logic, their reason. If their eyes flicker to the right, then you know that they're accessing the creative side of their brain. So they're creating the story, as it were, as they're speaking. Now, there's an important thing to note here. This is not as effective with yes or no questions because those don't require as much thought, but more with open-ended questions. Questions like, so, how was the party last night? Well, in order to answer that question, there needs to be an access of some sort of information. That information either needs to come from their memory, which would come from the left side of the brain, so their eyes automatically look to their left, or it needs to come from their imagination, which would come from the right side of their brain, so their eyes would look to their right. It's important. Their left and their right. So on the left, when people look to their left, they're likely telling the truth. When they look to their right, they're likely misleading you. Another thing about the eyes is, have you ever spoken with someone who closes their eyes when they're talking to you? It's remarkable, isn't it? And kind of annoying. What's going on here? Well, it's just like when you were a kid, and so much of this behavior is transferred over from being a kid. Remember when you were a kid and maybe you didn't want to see the evil, right? See no evil. So you kind of put your hands over your eyes. It's the same sort of thing. It's very difficult for people to tell the truth with their eyes closed. Just try that. Close your eyes, squint them really hard, and say, I am telling the truth. And then contrast that with opening your eyes, looking into the mirror and saying, I am telling the truth. One of them feels more authentic, doesn't it? Let's talk about the nose. The nose, this is a very subtle way to tell when someone may be lying to you. At the end of your nose, you have these nerve endings. And when we are distressed, they flare up, causing the end of our nose to itch just a little bit. There was a big deal made about this when Bill Clinton was on trial for the Monica Lewinsky case. And the way that he rubbed his nose. George W. Bush, when he was being asked about weapons of mass destruction, rubbed his nose several times. And it's very subtle, and most people wouldn't catch it. But if you can pick up on it, you'll notice that in times when people feel nervous, they'll with their index finger, rub back and forth under their nose, or maybe they'll rub the end of their nose with their fingers. It's a bit hilarious that Pinocchio is the guy with the long nose every time he told a lie, but there is some truth in that our noses can be an indicator of a lie. And then with our mouth, in particular with our lips. Look at a little kid who may be trying to keep a secret. What do? They cover their hand over their mouth to keep the words from coming out. Well, as we grow older, we know that this is not appropriate behavior. You can't go around with your hand over your mouth every time you're about to say something. But we do something very similar. Have you ever noticed when someone might touch their lips with their fingers? Or even lick their lips before they say something? It's almost as if they're pausing and giving themselves a moment, and with this licking of the lips, buying time. Interesting that when people do this, oftentimes it's an indication that what they're saying isn't as straightforward as it could be. So, looking at the face, we can see that there are 3 ways that we can tell automatically if someone may be being dishonest. Now, before we go off and start putting people at stake for for lying to you, sometimes people are nervous about speaking, not because of the content of the information. So some people are just by nature nervous people, and you need to be able to take into context what it is that they're saying. So pay attention to other clues. How well do you know this person? Is this behavior normal for them? And are there any other lie indicators being revealed? And to give you a few others to go by, I'm going to list them now. Here's some other signs of untruth. We talked about brushing of the lips. A lot of times when people are talking, they're going to wave their hands. They're going to gesticulate, talking with their hands. When people are trying to be dishonest, they're trying to keep everything under control, almost as if they're trying too hard. And you'll notice that they stop a lot of motion and are almost perfectly still. Licking of the lips, as we talked about. Any gestures that are different from their normal gestures can be an indication. Because remember, these things come from our limbic animal brain, the subconscious part of us that we don't have any control over. And so what happens is this part of our brain sends these signals out and we try to get them under control, and it produces behavior that isn't as normal as it should be. Have you ever noticed this? Someone will be talking and in the middle of their talking, they'll clear their throat like that. I've noticed that many times that coughing, that clearing of the throat, is again buying time for them to come up with something. Notice that, and notice how often people do it. Erratic breathing, any rubbing of the nose, as we talked about, foot tapping, any kind of bouncing of the leg, which is sending that nervous energy that they're getting down into their lower extremities. And of course, closing their eyes, indicating for all the world to see that they are indeed uncomfortable with this situation. So listen, we talked about how this works and why these are foolproof ways of telling when people are lying. So here's what to do next. Go to subconsciouscommunication.com. If you're watching this on YouTube or another video sharing site, go into subconsciouscommunication.com and put in your email address. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow you to see the next video that I come out with, which is called How to Make Yourself Irresistible Without Saying a Word. Leave a comment, a question, a critique, anything that you think about this video that would be helpful to other people. I'm in the process of putting together a course on subconscious communication, how to get people to do what you want without having to tell them. And what it's going to be is a focus on all of the subconscious ways that we communicate, all the subtle ways. And you'll notice that anybody who's a master communicator, whether he's a master communicator, he or she is a master communicator with the opposite sex, in business, in conflict resolution, they don't focus on what everybody else sees, because that is under control. What we need to do is go behind the defenses, get to where the people are vulnerable and honest, and make it easy for them to communicate the information that we want. So go to subconsciouscommunication.com now, put in your email address, leave a comment about this video, and look forward to the next one, which is called How to Make Yourself Irresistible Without Saying a Word. And I will talk to you then. Bye-bye.